Welcome back. We're glad to have as our next guest Barbara Opall-Rome, our Israel bureau chief, who's in from Tel Aviv to join us. Barbara, thanks for coming by. It's been a year since Israel's Hezbollah war, and there's speculation across the Arab world that another conflict is going to be coming before the end of the summer. Syria's skittish. Hezbollah is already saying that it's rearmed and has a series of special surprises in for Israel. What's the view of the situation from Israel's standpoint, as the summer wears on, and especially in the wake of last year's war?
If it were entirely up to Israel, there would be no war this summer or for the remainder of this year, for the simple reason that Israel is not ready on a number of levels. On the political level, the government lacks legitimacy to engage in yet another elective war. The Olmert government just does not have the public mandate. On a social level, they have not nearly made enough progress in reinforcing the roofs of various public buildings and homes, renovating bomb shelters and whatnot to prepare the public for yet another barrage of Hezbollah rockets and missiles. And then finally, on the military level, they're going to need another 6 months to a year to really get up to the readiness levels that will be expected of them if they intend to achieve meaningful results next time around.
2 months ago, when I was in Israel and we had a chance to meet with a lot of senior officials, the sense was that the lessons had been learned, the major command post exercise was being conducted, all the senior current and former military elite of Israel was participating in it. And there was a sense that lessons had already been learned and they were well on track to recovery, but your understanding is a little bit different, that there's still quite a long way to go.
As they say in Israel, there are gaps between the theoretical and the practical. And unfortunately, they are learning lessons, they are internalizing, and there is a serious, genuine effort to rehabilitate and improve themselves. But until this filters down in a meaningful way to all of the levels, it will be very unwise for Israel again to go out and electively try to anticipate some kind of a victory next time around.
Are the needs purely on an intellectual and a doctrinal level, or are there actually genuine equipment needs that the last war illustrated for the IDF?
A little bit of both. They are still replenishing their war stocks that were grossly depleted during the last war. Much of this is coming from the United States, and the Israeli industry is also working double if not triple shifts to replenish the war reserves and the war stocks. But on a larger level, the stamp of approval and the new guidance from the new Chief of General Staff, Gabi Ashkenazi, who you know, still needs some time to filter down. For example, just in terms of language, they are no longer going to be speaking in abstract terms of punishing the enemy, extracting a price from the enemy, searing into their consciousness some so-called military objective. Now there will be clear orders in the ground war parlance, take that hill, capture that town, right. Impose curfews. They will have to go back to basics, and that's what Gabi Ashkenazi is trying to do, and it's still going to take a lot of time.
Doesn't there also have to be greater amount of discipline? I mean, the IDF has always prided itself as not being as hard on discipline as a general rule as some other militaries. Does there have to be greater discipline on the part of some troops, for example, by using their cell phones and having their communications intercepted?
Absolutely. There is a very serious effort underway to impose discipline, but this is a people's army, remember, and you cannot prevent the mothers from wanting to get in touch with their children at the front. This was a serious field security issue in the last war, and issues of discipline and use of equipment, and also it's up to the IDF to provide the means of communication that they, from what I understand, according to a reserve brigade that was exercising up on the northern border just 2 weeks ago, they still do not have that secure equipment.
Right.
So
I've got about 15 other questions for you, but unfortunately we're out of time this week. Thanks very much, Barbara, for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks, Lauren, for joining us as well. That's all that we have time for today. Thanks very much for joining us on This Week in Defense News. I'm Vago Muradian, your host. We'll see you next week. Thanks.